In this tutorial I will go over how to make a banner loop 3 times and then end on a specific frame using ActionScript. I have a simple banner open that I created, which is a ball that just follows a motion guide. Simply starts out red, ends blue, goes around and just loops. So first what I'm going to create is the end frame that my movie will stop on after it loops 3 times. I normally prefer to make this right after the last frame. So what I'll do is I'll copy over this keyframe of the ball. I will add a new layer, name it text, insert a keyframe at layer 51, and in my library I've already created this movie clip, which is a simple clip that says the banner has looped 3 times. This is just to illustrate, that we've looped and we've stopped on frame 51. And that is it for the banner. So now it's time to write the ActionScript. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another keyframe on frame 51 of the actions layer and go to Window, Actions, or the appropriate shortcut key. On frame 51 I'll simply type in a stop ActionScript. So when it gets to frame 51 it just stops. So now what would happen if I played this, it would just play to frame 51 and stop, but we want it to loop back to frame 1 once it reaches frame 50 3 times. So I click on frame 50 in the Actions layer, go to Window, Actions, and here's where we'll write our ActionScript for the looping. Write an if statement, open parentheses, exclamation point, which in ActionScript is a not, loop, capital C-O-U-N-T, loop count, close parentheses. So what this is doing is it's saying if loop count, the variable, it's looking for the variable loop count. If this variable has been declared, then it won't do anything. But if it hasn't, it will go through and play what's within the curly brackets. So we type in an open curly bracket, hit enter. We're going to declare the variable loop count now with var loop, capital C-O-U-N-T. We're going to strict data type this to a number, and that number is equal to 0. And with a semicolon to close it off, and close it off with a closing curly bracket. So what this chunk of code is doing is saying if loop count, the variable if loop count's been declared, which the first time it will not. So it'll go ahead and play the next line, line 2, which is declaring the variable loop count, and it's equal to a number, which is 0. So the next time it plays through this, if the variable loop count will be declared, and it will skip line 2 and go on to the next code. So hit enter a couple times. Type loop count plus plus, which increments the variable loop count up by 1 every time it passes through this code. Press enter. We're going to write another if statement. If, open parentheses, loop count is greater than or equal to 3, because we want it to loop 3 times, it'll go ahead and play the next line of code, which is root.go to and stop on frame 51. We'll close that off with a semicolon. Press enter and a close curly bracket. So what's happening here, on line 5, it'll increment the loop count variable up by 1. And if loop count is greater than or equal to 3, it'll go ahead and play line 7, which is root.goTo and stop frame 51, which is where we have a stop in our static image. But we also want to write an else statement here if it has not reached 3 yet. So, or simply hit space, else, open curly bracket, press enter, go to capital A and D, capital P L Y for go to and play, open parentheses, we want to go to and play frame 1. So if the variable loop count has not reached 3, we want it to go to and play 1, frame 1. And that's it for the loop. What I'm going to go ahead and do for tutorial purposes, write in a trace so we can visually see the variable loop count incrementing up by 1 each time. So to do that, I'll write a simple trace loop count. So it'll display this in my output window when I go ahead and play this movie. So I'll do a simple save real quick, and I'll go to and I'll preview publish this out. So you have the ball going around once, and in the output window you can see it tracing that variable 2 and 3, and it stops on frame 51, so our script worked perfect. This output window, if you haven't used this before, it just kind of gives you a visual representation of how your ActionScript's working. This isn't seen by any viewer. It only works within Flash. So that is how you create the loop for your banner. I'm going to come back in and show you a couple things you can change. Right here you can change this to another number, like 5 if you want it to loop 5 times. If you wanted, like, this number will change with banners. If you end on frame 100 or 101, you'll want to change this to 101. As well as go to and play. Generally that would be frame 1, but if you choose to have go to and play a different frame, say like 5 or 10, you could do it there. And that's how you create the loop for your banner. If you have any questions, refer to the Cox Ohio Publishing Artist Discussion Forum, and we'll get your questions answered. I'm Steve Jones, and thanks for listening to this tutorial.